Just see what that looks like. Okay, let's zoom in a little, zoom out. That's what it looks like. That is like super like amazing to see what that looks like. Look at that. That is such a beautiful shot. And I don't want to take away from me as a photographer or creator, but this camera just makes it so easy and simple to be able to take shots like these. Wow, these are so amazing.
I think that there's something to be said about the brand new RX1R Mark III, and that it makes the A7CR look really, really good. But first, let's check this out. If you look at this camera, the X106 by Fuji is probably one of the most sought after cameras for its colors, its retro design, and it has a fair price. Then if you go and you check out this camera, the Sigma BF mirrorless camera. Some say that this camera should have been the camera that Apple made, sleek, futuristic and innovative at a reasonable price, still a bit expensive. Then there's this camera, the Leica Q3. Classy, has so much history behind it, but a hefty price tag. Some say that this camera makes the sky bluer, makes the greens greener, makes water taste better, and I think at this particular price point, anything should taste better because this is an expensive camera. Then there's the RX1R Mark III. So the camera does offer like some of the most amazing image quality that you can find, but at $5,000, does it spark nostalgia, class, simplicity, creativity, the love for photography? If you are looking at taking photos, then maybe something like the A7CR is something that you need to look at. So let's look at the A7CR just for a quick overview. So the A7CR comes in a compact size body with a 61 megapixel sensor. It gives you the freedom of creativity when it comes to its auto framing, as well as the autofocus with its AI processing chip. It has an interchangeable lens mount system, full articulated rear screen, 4K video up to 60 frames per second with built-in IBIS for $2,000 less than the RX1R Mark III. So everything great about the RX1R Mark III makes the A7CR even greater. And with today's tariff landscape, it makes it extremely difficult to justify that price point. I don't even want to see the price for this camera in South African rands because I'm thinking, is the $5,000 going to be converted into South African rands with that tariff in mind? I can imagine that that $5,000 price tag includes the Trump tariffs. So at the time of recording this video, we don't know the price for the RX1R Mark III in South Africa. What I would say is that it was amazing that they were able to get the 61 megapixel sensor in such a small camera body, which brings the question, does this camera suffer from major overheating issues? So a quick comparison, let's just see what you get for the price tag of an RX1R Mark III when you combine that with a lens for the A7CR. So if you're going to buy an A7CR brand new and you pair that with a GM35 f1.4, it works out to about $4,500 US. And if you buy that used, you save a further $1,000. Especially if you're looking for a very capable compact camera that shoots great quality photo and video, then the A7CR is a great option. So I had the opportunity to shoot with the A7CR, and as you can see in these photos, the A7CR is a fantastic camera, especially if you pair it with the right lens. In this particular case, I shot this with a 200 to 600 zoom lens, and with the 61 megapixel sensor, you are able to crop into the picture and still get a lot of detail out of an image like this.
This is one of the nights that I could finally get to take a couple of shots of the moon again. So usually what I do is I try and use like all sorts of different autofocus functions. This is autofocus single shot. Just see what that looks like. Okay, let's zoom in a little, zoom out. That's what it looks like. That is like super like amazing to see what that looks like. Look at that. That is such a beautiful shot. And I don't want to take away from me as a photographer or creator, but this camera just makes it so easy and simple to be able to take shots like these. Wow, these are so amazing.
So I used the camera also to shoot a couple of photos with an engagement lunch that I was with family, and I used this lens, the f1.8 50mm. and I was still able to get like amazing pictures out of this A7CR. So the RX1R Mark III just does not make sense. Most of the time you're taking eye-level photos with this camera because there's no articulating or flip-out screen. It has poor battery life. You're limited to just one lens, although you have 3 focal lengths, and I say that in inverted commas because it's almost like digital zoom, but not really. If you consider price, creativity, freedom of movement, freedom of expression, nostalgia, if that's the kind of thing that you're into, the RX1R Mark III just doesn't give me the feels. And at $5,000 US, the only thing that I'm feeling is money leaving my bank account. So this camera is not for everybody. I think that if you have $5,000 to splash and it doesn't even dent your bank account, then by all means, you can buy this camera. A lot of creators that criticized the RX1R Mark III and finally had it in their hands had good things to say about it, and they should, because the sensor is really good, as well as the autofocus AI processing chip. Something else to mention also, some issues with this is that it shoots 4K up to 30 frames per second, and we know that that sensor is capable of shooting up to 8K. So I can imagine that in this small camera body, you wouldn't be able to do that because it will suffer from serious overheating issues. But if you are on a budget and you want a really great camera that you can carry around with you, that is small, compact, easy to use, then it's the A7CR. I think 90% of us, the RX1R Mark III is just a little bit out of our price affordability range. But overall, when you're just looking at the image quality and you're looking at that sensor, you're looking at that AI processing chip, it really has great internals, and you have to give it to Sony that they were able to take all of that same technology that's in the bigger alpha camera like the A7 took that same sensor and AI chip and managed to cram it in such a small body. I would love to hear what you think about the RX1R Mark III, especially if you're in South Africa. Is this something that you're going to get? Is this something that you're looking at? Also, our US viewers, are you guys willing to pay $5,000 before tax or something like this? Please comment. Let me know what you think about the RX1R Mark III. The RX1R Mark III is definitely something that's out of my budget, but I would love to hear from, those that are avid photographers that see that this camera could be an asset or an investment for them. That's the end for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Until I see you in the next one, cheers.